Well, I'm back for another session. I know it's been a minute. I've been dealing with some stuff in my life, and the other YouTube channel that I have, Resilient Truth, it's been getting a lot of attention lately, so I've been busy with that one. But I wanted to come on here and try to finish up. Like I said, it's been a while. I put those reposts of the narcissism, narcissism. Some people say I can't say it right, but just because I can't say it, don't mean I don't know nothing about it. And I was raised pretty much around it, so I got the education, or I want to say the experience of it before I even read a textbook on it. But I reposted those three videos from another channel. Matter of fact, it was the Resilient Truth channel. And because there was so much attention being talked about, every time you turned on YouTube, you would always see something about narcissism. Women like Dr. Romney would be talking about it, educating on it. You know, men too. There's multiple sites with men on there. You have to put narcissism in the search engine, and you'll find a whole bunch of people doing it and talking about it. It's big, it's trending. But I, with that being said, I was like, where do I go with that from that point? After I posted, you know, loving those who don't love you, and basically you giving your all to somebody that's not giving their all to you, or how to love, basically. But like I said, if you haven't seen them, go back and watch them, and it'll give you a brighter insight of about today's topic. Today's topic, like I said, I was trying to figure out where to go with this, and I just happened to be in a training session with my clinical, and she put a spin on it. It's like, what's the difference between ADHD and narcissism? I mean, they both kind of appear the same. So a lot of them just say, "Oh, ADHD. That's what I have is ADHD." But they download narcissist. That's just because it's not good or not trending to be a narcissist. People don't like that term. People don't want to deal with those type of people, because when you even think about a narcissist, you think about manipulation. You think about the dark psychology that comes along with that. You think about people that are prideful, arrogant, and they don't want to be people persons, or they want to get all they can get. They treat others like a slab of meat, basically. They don't have no social skills. They try to be sociable, but they don't have any social or communication skills, because it's all about them. If it doesn't appease them, then they have no interest in it. The difference between ADHD, like I said, they mirror one another. ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, is somebody that is like over the top all the time. They can't sit still. They're impatient. They don't have attention to detail. They don't have the patience to sit and think nothing through. They're not really can invest in anything, because they're always bouncing around. They don't they they don't know how to choose what shirt to wear in the morning, even when it's a uniform shirt. They just, their mind is all over the place. Normally these are people that have too many irons in a fire, is the way they put it. But they are people that have too many projects going on, and that's not because they're so successful most of the time. Somebody with ADHD is somebody that has a lot of projects because they don't have the patience or the discipline to finish a project, to finish a task. They start something, and before you know it, they tired and they're off racing and thinking about something else. That's the reason. But like I said, you have a lot of irons in the fire, so to speak. And when you have that, you become overwhelmed. You don't know which way to go. You don't know, you just stop what and go to do this. You know, just to pick one thing and complete it is like an overwhelming task for someone with ADHD. Now that's ADHD. Like I said, it mirrors narcissism. Narcissism are pretty much the same way. They just can't focus on one project because they're always, you know, if it's not benefiting them at the moment, you know, they don't want to, how do I put it? If it's not benefiting them at the moment, you know, they lose interest, you know. Their interest is more so in others because they're looking at what others have and what others are doing. And if those people seem to be enjoying themselves or more successful than them, they want to dip off into that. And, you know, they have this down low way or sense of sabotage. You know, they want to come and be a distraction, or, you know, they want to stop you from doing this or stop you from doing that because, you know, they live their life vicariously through others because they want people to cater to them. You know, it's the king or the queen mentality where, you know, they got to have servants, you know, people that are subservient to them, you know, that like, you know, blow smoke up they behind, you know, give them accolades, you know, put them all the way up on this pedestal. And if they're not getting that, if they're not feeding off of something like that, they get highly bored and they, you know, they see something you got, they like, they want to do something to sabotage. You know, they see you have peace and they don't, you know, they want to try to find a way to make sure you don't have peace or that you lose your peace. If you're a type of person that's introverted, then they want to make situations where you're out and about. You know, you can't be at peace just sitting behind a desk. Or if you're a person that's extroverted and you like going out being around people, then they are type of people that want to make you sit behind a desk. You know, they gotta watch you or see where you're at. You know, they gotta monitor you. They're monitoring spirits as well. And like I said, I was talking on the Resilient Truth channel about hindering spirits. Narcissistic people normally have a hindering spirit because, you know, they want to project themselves onto you in a way that it slows you down or holds you back from what you're trying to do, because narcissistic people do not want to be left behind. They have too many things going on to ever excel, to ever actually, you know, succeed in life. And many that do succeed, you know, not by themselves. You know, they have to have a team or whatever, you know, because they can't focus long enough to excel by themselves. They're not one to sit and write a book and become a bestseller because that's too boring to them. Their mind can't stay focused on something like that. They don't have the patience to write that out. And if they did become a bestseller, it would be like a whole bunch of maybe many books that sell on Amazon, because the attention of a narcissistic person is not that long. The attention span is very short because it only lasts as long as they're being fed. As long as you're feeding into them, to their ego, to who they want to feel like they are. Because narcissistic people, they have all the accolades, you know, the sexy, alluring, you know, like the 50 Shades of Grey guy, and the young lady that, you know, the plain girl, you know, the bad boy syndrome or whatever. They have all the allure and the sexiness and all of that about them, but that's all it is. When you peel back all of that, there's no substance. And they know it because they never take the time to find out who they are or what they want or invest into themselves. They're always feeling like people aren't going to like them or accept them for who they are. Most of them feel like they're, you know, pitiful or worthless because, they're always trying to find ways to be accepted in the world. They're always going for that next accolade. Nothing, they're never satisfied. They got to get the bigger this. They're very grandiose. They got to always have the biggest of the big. And if you get that bigger, then they got to turn on the wheels and go bigger than that. They're never satisfied because they feel like they got to be at the top. And most narcissistic people are alone. They live by themselves because people can't get along with them. Because after a while, when you are with somebody that is always about them, and that's very draining. It's always, you always walking on eggshells, pins and needles, trying to please a narcissistic person, and you're never going to please them because they can't be pleased. They don't know what pleases them. They may be pleased for a moment, but then they're off to the next thing. They want the whole world in their hands, and they have a mindset that if they get the whole world in their hands, they're not going to be satisfied with that. It's always got to be something more. It's like a bottomless pit. They may want this or they may want that, but then once they get it, it loses its luster, and they off to the next thing. They off to get something else. And you have a lot of people, say for instance, a fetish would be shoe fetish. You have a narcissistic person who has a shoe fetish, who has a closet full of shoes that are basically the same type of shoe, just different colors. That's the mindset of a narcissist, because they can't be satisfied. They think they're going off the next best new thing, but when you get it, it's the same thing, just a different color, maybe a different texture, but it all amounts the same. So the difference between ADHD and narcissism is they're basically the same. It's just narcissistic people have a dark side, that dark psychology that I would not advise anybody to delve into, because when you start learning dark things and seduction and all these type of things, it changes your persona, and it twists you into a person that you may not even like yourself. But narcissistic people are manipulative. They want everything for themselves. They can't be happy unless you're miserable. They can't be happy unless they're controlling you along with everything around them. Narcissistic people are control freaks. And if they do not have control, they are unhappy. They are unsatisfied. That's why when they find an individual who's willing to be introverted and, up under their wing, and they're able to control and manipulate them, they're okay. But the moment that that person stands up for themselves and wants to do something for their own self, it's a problem. It causes chaos. So there is no team player with a narcissist, because narcissistic people are not team players. The only team that they have are themselves. They are very entitled individuals. They are very selfish individuals. Therefore, you can have a person with ADHD and not have to deal with all the dark side, per se. You just have to deal with somebody that can't concentrate, maybe late to work all the time, maybe can't focus enough to learn to drive a car, or you know, something of those natures. But when you're dealing with a narcissist, there's a sense of danger in it. Like I said, the 50 Shades of Grey series, you know, the allure of the danger, you know, that's what the excitement of it. So when you have somebody that is narcissistic, and you know, like I say, 50 Shades of Grey, looking at that scenario, the young lady could have been in danger. I mean, she could have got hurt many times in the picture, you know, with the whips and the chains, and you know, it's that sadistic, you know, type of behavior. You know, somebody, it's like being in love with somebody that doesn't love you. And, you know, they rather hurt you. It's like bad attention is better than no attention at all. So when you have a desire to be with something that hurts you, something that's sabotaging you, something that maybe holds you back, or you know, something that is not in support of you, is not in your best interest, or is not in your corner, then you need to find out what deep, dark secret or hidden trauma or whatever is on the inside of you that is attracting that energy and causing you to feel some type of comfort in the pain. It's like when people cut themselves. They don't cut themselves really to hurt themselves. They cut themselves just to feel the pain, because it takes their attention off of a deeper or inner pain that they can't seem to stop, you know, from hurting them. Some people will get tattoos who, you know, use their body as a canvas, get the tattoos to express themselves, because in their mindset they're turning their hurt or their pain into art. The feel of the needle in their skin causes them to reflect their attention from the inner pain that they feel onto the physical pain that they're experiencing, that at the end of the session becomes a beautiful frame of art in their mind, or an expression of a word, or maybe somebody's name that they truly loved, that, you know, they remember, or whatever. So being attracted to something like that is very dangerous. When you want to sit and hold your life back, or allow your life to be held back at the grace and the control of somebody else, you got to snap out of it. You got to get out of it, because it's not going to stop. And if it gets worse and more control, and they get more and more comfortable in controlling you, they get more and more comfortable where they lose disrespect. They lose respect for you. They talk to you any old kind of way. They call you out of your name. You know, they call you, you know, a liar or whatever. That means that they have no more respect for you. And once they lose respect, if they can lose respect, they can lose, you know, anything else. Some of them start going to blows. You know, some of them like to lay hands. They like to fight. They like to bring pain, because when they can't get you to be controlled, when they can't control you, they want to bring harm to you. They want to hurt you. It's like gonna make you do what they want you. They want to make you do what they need you to do. You won't do what they want you to do. So they got to lay hands on you and try to force you to do what they want to do. Rape is a prime example. If somebody don't want to lend sex, then somebody forcefully takes it. That's narcissistic. That's a controlling mindset. A ADHD person wouldn't have it on that scale. Because, like I said before, the difference between a narcissistic person and somebody who has ADHD is the dark psychology. The hurt, the pain, the trauma, the joy, or the comfort in causing somebody else to feel misery. Generally, because misery loves company. If they can't stop the pain on the inside of them, most narcissistic people narcissistic people find joy in your tears, in holding you back, in keeping you from doing or succeeding in what you want to succeed in. It's that crabs in a bucket mentality. They may not necessarily want to hold you back forever to keep you from it, but they may want to hold you back so that you can shine, but only shine up under them. So as you shine, they get the benefit of the credit. God forbid you go shine by yourself or go shine with somebody else and leave them behind. That's the reason why they hold you back. Narcissistic people cannot shine by themselves. They want to feed off the compliments, the affirmation. They want to feed off others boasting their ego. They know themselves they are not all that. But they just want to appear in the mirror and to everyone around them that they are. And generally they end up alone, like I said before, because when you see that under all the layers that there's no substance, you generally walk away. You generally, the facade that's up there. I remember back in the day when I was in the world, I want to say, and I used to go to the strip club. And not because I was stripping, but it was like a club. And the girls would go out and we would see these gentlemen just sit up there and strip. And the allure, the dancing, the lights, the music, the hot sweat and everything. That's when I didn't stand sweaty balls. But the hot, the alcohol, you're sitting there drinking or whatever, and you got these naked men just dancing all around you and everything and doing lap dances and all of that. And then one day, I messed around there. Like I said, I was back in the day in the world. I messed around there and took one of them home. That whole incident burst my bubble. I never went to another strip club after that. Because after the lights had set and the alcohol was gone and there was no stage, there was no substance. There was nothing. The allure was gone. It wasn't all that it was caked up to be. I'd have been okay if I'd have never took it home. So that's what I'm saying. That's what the life of a narcissistic person is they all hype, but no substance. There's nothing there. That's the reason why they have to feed off other people, pumping their ego. And they're beautiful people. The problem is they don't know it. To where they're always chasing to fill their ego. Their ego can never get full. And they lose out because people don't want to be around them anymore. If they become too draining, and you realize that you can't please them, damned if you do, damned if you don't. You can't do nothing to please them because they don't know how to please themselves. I don't care how big or how grandiose, they can't find pleasure. They just don't want to be alone. So they find somebody that they can treat as a puppet, you know, on the strings. When you have a person with ADHD, just ADHD, they ain't thinking about that. They thinking about their own self, trying to figure out, you know, what shirt to wear, you know, how to get to work on time. What to, they, work by alarm clocks and stuff like that. They got to set a routine to just managing life. Whereas a narcissistic person has to go beyond that. They have to be fed an ego. They have to be inflated. They have to be told more and more. And narcissistic people are one of the biggest liars because they're exaggerated. They over-exaggerate everything. And they're the most I ain't gonna say the most, they're very untrusting because they know what they're living is a lie. They know that they not all that in a bag of chips. They just don't want you to figure it out. Once you figure it out, that's when it becomes really, really dangerous with a narcissistic person because they don't want to lose you. They don't want to stop. They don't want you to take away what you bring to the table. If you bring in pumping them up, feeding them the ego or whatever, they don't want to live without that. They don't want to go back into the slumps of, being by themselves, listening to their own ruminating thoughts of normally a negative self-talk because they know they're not what they portray to be. And generally, a lot of them just don't know who they are. They never sat down to try to find out or figure out who they are, what they wanted in life, what their purpose was, what their lot in life was. They just found something, took it and ran with it. They didn't try any other app. They didn't invest in themselves. They didn't study to show them own selves approved. They didn't, figure out who they were, what their core beliefs were. They didn't figure out their foundation and how it, relates to them in life. They found a stage and they just ran with it. They never tried any other stage. They put on different faces, different characters with different people, oftentimes, to try to figure out what they want. It's really not about anybody but them. It's just about them in the mirror. When they get comfortable with who's in the mirror and find out who they are for themselves, they'll be okay. They'll be more than okay. They'll have peace. A sense of life. They won't spend their life trying to get the next best thing. And maybe they would actually be successful because they would start a project and finish it. Like I said, don't let a narcissistic person cover up as just ADHD because that could be very dangerous. You can get away from a person with ADHD if necessary, if you want to. But sometimes it's kind of dangerous and taxing to try to get away from a narcissistic person, somebody that's controlling, somebody that's living their life vicariously off of you. Because in their mind, when you take your life away, you took a piece of them, and they're not willing to die. They can't wrap their head around you being happy with anyone else besides them. So Don't subject yourself to narcissistic abuse. It doesn't stop. Narcissistic abuse is basically them beating themselves up, but using you as a punching bag. Everything they're taking out on you is because what they feel about themselves on the inside. Like I said before, a lot of them are liars. Therefore, they want to maybe beat you up because your life isn't a lie, it isn't a facade. Or if they're caught in a lie and they feel shame, they don't like to feel shame. They may do harm because they feel like they've been found out. That's one of the dangerous points in a narcissistic's life, is because once they're found out, they don't know what to do. They can't just go tuck their head in sand. Basically, they would have to go live somewhere else. Or some have suicidal ideation. Some of them have a plan. That's when you have oftentimes domestic violence situations where they'll take you out and then go take themselves out. So narcissistic people aren't people to play with. I'm not saying we can't love them, but oftentimes you have to learn to love them from a distance. Because how can you love somebody that does not know how to love themselves? And if they don't know how to love themselves, they don't have love. And if they don't have love, they can't recognize love. So you would be loving somebody that can't even recognize. So instead of wasting your life, your best bet is to walk away from the narcissistic abuse, the name calling, the degrading, the being appear that you're inferior, that you're beneath them, like they're the top of the world, like they're God in their mind themselves. You'll never defeat that. You'll never change that. Only God himself can change that with the help of the narcissist, because the narcissistic individual has to want to change. And oh yeah, they'll tell you all different kind of stories about how they're going to change and they're sorry, and they'll tell you what you need to hear, what you need to know, what they feel like you want to hear, all to get you back in their good graces. And each time it gets worse and worse and worse and harder to get out. Love shouldn't hurt like that. Love shouldn't call you names. Love shouldn't disrespect you. Love shouldn't treat you inferior. Love shouldn't dominate and control you. That's not love. That's their interpretation and manipulative tactics to try to keep you and get a hold on your life. And that's how you waste your life. You lose your life, because if you're always subservient to them and never get to do any and everything you want to do for your own self, how are you ever going to have any joy? Serving somebody else that's not serving you. You're suffering in silence when you're dealing with a narcissist. And I don't believe what you feel is love. If you're in love with a narcissist, I believe that's a soul tie. Because you can't love in fear of what this individual is going to do, how they're going to treat you, if they're going to disrespect you, if they're going to shame you in public, how they're going to act in public. It's easier and it's best to plan a way of escape, to get out of that situation. They're not the only one in the world for you. They're not the only one in the world. I know they may say that, ain't nobody gonna love you like I love you, or ain't nobody don't mind but want you, or maybe you're too old, or I know they say all these demeaning things to try to lower your self-esteem. But you got to know in your heart of hearts that if they wanted you, there's somebody else that would want you too. It's a cop-out. It's a game. It's what they feel on the inside. They get tired of going through what they go through to try to prove that they're worthy to be in your presence. They got to control you. Because if they feel like they don't control you, that they don't have no substance to hold you, and that you'll walk away, that you'll leave their life. Then they got to turn around and start all over again with somebody else, trying to build that air about themselves, that facade about themselves to somebody else. They find another individual, and because they're bored with you, or if they're not bored with you, you're trying to get away and they know it. And once they feel like all their control tactics and everything in trying to keep you is gone, they treat you like mess. They slander your name. They talk about you. They make sure nobody else won't have nothing else to do with you. They try to make it so that you'll be alone for the rest of your life and always indebted to them. Even if you don't come back to them, or maybe they don't want you to come back to them, they get a rise off making sure that your life is miserable. How dare you leave them? They are the best of the best. Narcissistic people do not like you to walk away from them. They don't like you to leave their life unless it's on their terms, unless they tell you goodbye, unless they putting you out. And normally it's with a scene, because they gotta be like it, it's worth it. They gotta be grandiose about it. They gotta exaggerate everything. They gotta make it like you're the bad person. And they mess don't stink. So I just want to come on here for a few minutes and tell you the difference between ADHD and narcissistic people. Narcissistic people have a dark side. You don't want to play with that dark side. You need to get out if that's what you're experiencing. They don't love you because they can't love themselves. They'll tell you they love you, but it's very general. It's very open, because they always give out open-ended promises. They always tell you what they're going to do. They tell you how they're going to elevate you or anything of that. They always give good things out their mouth towards you, but nothing ever comes to pass. It's always open-ended promises. They're liars. They can't keep their promises. They're not integral. You can't depend on them because they can't depend on themselves. They can't finish one project. They're all over the place. Both ADHD and narcissistic people. They got to try to figure out how to control you. That's the narcissistic person. They can't do diligence in their own life because they too busy trying to control yours. And unless you are on their side and doing everything that they want you to do, being subservient to them, and you have no say so, and you ain't supposed to want nothing in life for yourself, unless you're that type of person, it ain't gonna work. They're all about themselves. That's why they're by themselves. People get tired of being drained and dealing with them. How dare they be vulnerable to somebody? They don't like vulnerability. They don't even listen to your conversation. They listen to respond, but they don't care about nothing you're saying. They're not going to be vulnerable. They're not going to digest or ingest anything you're saying. They want to play like they, got empathy, that they care about you. But 9 times out of 10, they are the culprit behind everything that's going on. So, don't waste your time or your life trying to be subservient to a narcissistic individual. The only person that's going to go in that box at the end of your journey is you. And you can't blame the narcissist or anybody else if you didn't fulfill your life to the fullest because you were serving somebody else that wasn't serving you. Stop suffering in silence. Take your power back. Realize who you are. Realize that you were put on the face of this earth with your own 2 feet. You wasn't connected to nobody unless you were a Siamese twin. Realize that you have your own, that you can be somebody. Realize you came into this world without them, and you're going to leave this world without them. When you gather yourself together, I like how the scripture said, talk about the prodigal son. It says when he was in the mud, after he had squandered all his father's riches or inheritance or whatever that his father gave him, when he was laying in the mud, he came to himself. You got to come to yourself. Come to your senses. If somebody is controlling you or manipulating you, they're not going to stop. There's nothing you can do. They're not going to all of a sudden start loving you because how they going to figure out what that is? Please get out before they take you out. Or something happens and you find yourself in prison for the rest of your life. If a narcissistic person is going to learn love and how to be sociable, they're going to learn it on their own. In order to learn about themselves, they're going to have to be by themselves. Us sitting there trying to do everything for them, trying to help them along the way, is doing nothing but enabling their ego. Get out. Do not waste any more of your life with an individual who cares nothing for you, who is disgusted by you, really, who looks at you in contempt, because anything besides them is beneath them. If you're not doing anything for them, or if you're not convenient for them, they have no need of you. You got to get out. Don't let a narcissistic person camouflage themselves as a person with ADHD. And you watch your life just be ruined because you can't get away from this individual. Don't sit around and wait for the individual to die, because you may go before they do. Get a support system. Tell somebody. But you got to get out. You only guaranteed this life that you have. Who's to say you're going to be in an accident and be able to have a second chance? Don't waste this chance that you have. Narcissistic abuse is real. It's underlying murder is what it is. It's an individual that murders your spirit so that they can feed off of you and energize themselves. Most of them are lazy. They don't want to get you to do all the work. And they reap the benefits. It's murder is what it is. It's killing your life so that they can have life. I hope it opens somebody's eyes today. It's not worth it. Especially when just on the other side of that relationship is a real loving relationship. You just have to get healed and know the difference. Until the next time, I'll talk to you later. Be blessed.